All right, and let me get on Facebook here. This just takes me a minute.
I'm so glad you know how to do all this, Gina.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're glad. Debbie's laughing. I can see her smiling, even though I can't see her right now. Oh,
I'm not gonna say anything.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
a story in there.
There
Oh,
is a story.
there's
Okay,
always a story.
here we go. All right, we're going live, and I'm going to check our Facebook to make sure
Okay.
we're going live. All right, so welcome everybody to Laugh Lines and Turbulence. There we go. Yeah, we're live now, ladies. Hi,
Okay.
everyone. Welcome to Laugh Lines and Turbulence. Today we have Kelly Lutman. She's an amazing lady. Welcome, Kelly. So
Thank
glad you're
you. I am
here.
so
Yeah,
excited to be here with you tonight.
yeah. So, what I'm going to do is I am going to read Kelly's bio for everybody. Let me just get back onto my Zoom thing here. Okay, there we go. All right. Now I got like a billion screens up, so it's always fun.
Sort
All
them
right.
out.
Yeah. I've been in, just for back history. I've been in a women's networking group with Kelly for a number of years now, and she's just an amazing person. She's so inspirational, and so I'll go ahead and read her bio. So, Kelly Lutman has been fascinated by the power of food ever since she helped resolve her son's ADHD by simply changing what he ate. A health coach certified in applied functional medicine, Kelly firmly believes that symptoms are the body's cry for help, and that the body can heal when provided the building blocks it needs. She meets each client where they are, helps them understand what is happening in their body, and guides them in identifying the changes that will help them experience the vitality they are missing. So, Kelly also published a book in 2023. It's called Thriving Through Cancer. Got it right here, everybody. Fabulous book. This is a holistic approach for your journey, and it seeks to empower women, many of them in their 50s and older, who find themselves diagnosed with cancer and are not provided the sufficient guidance in supporting the rest of their bodies for a better treatment outcome. And honestly, I knock on wood, I'm at a wooden table. I have not had experiences personally with cancer, but this book actually is like so informative for anybody. So whether you have cancer, whether you haven't had cancer, it's just great information about the body. So anyways, welcome, Kelly. I'm done with my little spiel.
Thank you. And thank you for promoting that, because you're right. The book is intended to help a cancer patient support the rest of their body, the part that doesn't have cancer, because it's not given the attention it needs during the treatment. And because it's for the rest of the body, it really applies to every body. And we all have one. So, it's a
We're all
win-win.
somebody.
There you go. There you go. It's a win-win when
Yeah.
when you purchase the book and maybe read and learn and apply some of the stuff that I share for your own self. But then let's face it, all of us know someone who's been through cancer or has recently been diagnosed.
Yeah.
When you've read the book, you can share it with them. But our generation remembers reading Rainbow, right? Years back, where you give them not just, oh, you have cancer, you need to read this book. It's, I learned this from this book, and it could benefit you too. And so that's where we get the win-win, win for yourself, but then have something to share that means something for a person who's going through cancer. But that's just a piece of it, right? Because, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, it's been a journey.
Absolutely. So this whole thing started when your son was it junior high or grade school?
No, he was grade school,
Okay.
and I was homeschooling my boys.
Yeah.
And, all of us know if you have multiple kids, they're not all alike. They're different. And so, I was like, one could sit at the table and do his work and not have trouble. And this one could not sit at the table without dropping his pencil and falling out of his chair and totally distracted. And I happened to listen one day to a radio program, Focus on the Family, where they were doing a panel discussion of parents with ADHD kids. And they were describing my son. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do with this? Didn't really want him to just take him to the doctor and get him diagnosed and put on medication. So I started at the library because this was before the internet. I had to go the old fashioned way to paper and books. And I found a book by Dr. Benjamin Feingold, Why Your Child is Hyperactive. He was a pediatric allergist, and one of his theories was that a lot of hyperactivity is allergic reaction to artificial colors and flavors in food, which is very prominent in food. And so, I'm reading the book and thought, it makes sense. What's this going to hurt for us to try? So we tried as a family. I just, talked to my husband and we agreed we just need to change for everybody rather than your brothers can have this, but you can't type of thing.
Yeah.
And at the end of 2 weeks, we could tell a difference in his behavior. He was calmer. He wasn't dropping his pencil as much. It was like, whoa. And all we did was change our food. It had that kind of power. Yeah, it did. So we continued with the protocol as a family. There was no Kool-Aid in our household. There were no Skittles, no Fruit Loops, but also no yellow cheese because that was artificially colored. No margarine. We switched back to butter because margarine is artificially colored, but butter is naturally yellow. Interesting. So there was just a lot of things that we had to learn to adjust. And thankfully, in the book, Dr. Feingold's wife had developed recipes for some of the common things that kids like to eat, but that were made without the artificial flavors in them. So it helped us along. But what was cool was we continued that approach in our diet as a family, that he could go down the street to play with a friend and he wasn't policing himself. If he got offered a snack, he's like, yes, I'll take it.
Right.
But I could tell as soon as he walked in the door that he'd had something off protocol. It changed his behavior that quickly. And so, little by little, I'm not attacking him. What did you have? Just, hey, what did you have for snack at so-and-so's house? And do you notice you're a little bit jittery? Do you notice that, you're not sitting still? And just little by little started helping him understand the effect it was having on his body and that he had control with his choices. But, all we did was change our food and it had that power. And that's kind of what lit the flame in me. What else can food do? What else can we change that would improve our health? And I just started kind of researching and working through things until I finished the last of them through high school in homeschooling. And then I went back to school for me. But I was already 52 when I went back for school for me. And, learning new stuff and exploring things, and then wanted to go deeper than just being a health coach. Decided to train in functional medicine at 56 and dove into the deep end then. That's when it really got deep. But it fascinates me to see how changes in our food and our lifestyle habits can really support the body in healing. And to see the changes for people, when IBS is reversed and someone can travel again, where they didn't feel like they could trust their body to travel, that's freedom that I want more people to have.
Yeah. And question about that too is you mentioned IBS. You're talking about how your son with the ADD or ADHD, and inflammation. So with the functional medicine and the foods, like, do you have, Gina got your book. I haven't had a chance, to take a look at it or get it, but, talking about inflammation in the body too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, inflammation is one of the foundational things to disease. Your body is inflamed and It's designed to become inflamed in the healing process.
Correct.
But if the inflammation doesn't resolve and it keeps that fire going, then disease develops. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we're looking at. But often the inflammation is sparked by our food choices.
Mhm.
Oddly enough, there are foods that we're eating regularly that are prompting inflammation, or foods we eat that our bodies react to, and we
Mhm.
don't notice. We think, well, if it doesn't hurt my gut, then my body's not reacting. But you can have quiet reactions, things that don't seem to relate to your gut, but your joints hurt, or you
Mm.
have a headache, or you get sleepy. All of those can be the symptoms of reacting to food. And when those small reactions are happening regularly, it starts a cascade of low-grade inflammation that's going to lead to other things.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Interesting.
I find it really interesting. And you're right. It is a mind shift.
Mm-hmm.
It's a changing of lifestyle. And I am just the guilty one. And I think there's a lot of people out there where, you get on the bandwagon, do this, and then all of a sudden, oh, there's that favorite food, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, yeah. But even watching Super Size Me, and
Yes.
that there was a school in Wisconsin in the Appleton Oshkosh area, and they tried this with students who, this healthy eating with students who had behavioral problems,
Mm-hmm.
and they showed that those behaviors went away once they shifted them into eating vegetables for lunch and not the pizzas and the stuff that they
Yes.
normally feed
Yes.
kids.
The
And
industrial or
yeah,
institutional foods that,
yeah.
are full. They've stripped out all the nutrients and they've put a lot of flavor in them with chemicals,
Mhm,
and they don't nourish the body. They stir up that inflammation and reactions in the body that then translate to the way your brain works.
mhm,
It's amazing. In fact, I saw that with my oldest grandson back when he was little, as a toddler. He was not fun. No grandmother wants to say my grandson's no fun to be around, but he really wasn't. He was grumpy. He wanted just his mom. He didn't want to hug or snuggle or anything. And I was already a health coach at that point, so I was quite trying to gently offer suggestions, but you know how that goes when you can't tell everybody that kind of thing.
yeah.
Um, and and then they announced one day that they had a friend at church that was a whole family that was gluten-free, and they decided they were going to try gluten-free for a month. And in the behind, I'm going, yes, this will be good. And sure enough, it changed Justice's behavior.
Mm.
When he went gluten-free, he became a loving, happy, snuggly boy that I'd been missing all the earlier times in his life. And it was exciting to see. So I just validated, this is amazing. Look at the difference this made just by changing what you ate. Look at what it's done for him. Because he probably was not comfortable. He was probably grumpy because he hurt. And,
Yeah.
he was having symptoms, but he didn't have enough words to be able to explain what was going on.
Mhm.
And once that was gone, then he was a happy kid.
That's amazing. I think it's funny. Debbie and I have talked about this with each other and with other guests. Like, your kids, they don't want to hear it from you, but then, and it's the same thing that they heard from you
Mm-hmm.
that they hear from somebody else, and they're like, "Hey, this is a great idea. We're doing this."
Yep,
Did you know this?
happens a lot. It's
Oh,
okay. I just pray for someone else to be sharing the message that they hear.
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes they need to hear. Sometimes they do need to hear it from somebody else. I feel like sometimes the kids, they because we're their parents or their grandparents or whatever, they do tune us out.
Mm-hmm.
But even though they tune us out, they still retain what we're saying,
I
because
hear
I've had several times where maybe my daughter or my son has come up to me, Mom, so and so was talking about what you were talking about, like, and I don't take it personally. I'm like, no, that's great, so they retain it. But when they
Mm-hmm.
hear the message again from somebody else, they're like, oh yeah, my mom was talking about that. And then they'll come to me and say, oh, and talk about the subject a little bit
Yeah.
more. But
Yeah, they need the validation.
yeah, it's
It's
okay. I
not
mean,
just mom's kooky idea.
right. And it's okay. And I get it, so it is what it is. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Kelly, the one thing I wanted to ask you, like you were talking about, well, first of all, how old is your son, the one that you had noticed when he was younger that he had those symptoms and you started treating him with diet? How old is he now?
He's now in his late 30s.
Okay. And has he kept consistent with avoiding those foods?
After he left our house, he went to college and did his own thing.
That's okay. I
So,
understand. Yeah, it's okay. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. But even though he's, at the age he is now, down the
mhm,
line, if he still doesn't feel well, or he knows exactly where to get his help.
knows. And actually, it came back around to bite them in the butt because their oldest daughter is highly sensitive to
Uh-huh.
artificial colors and flavors.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
So at least he knew what to do.
right, right. And
But
they're
as a
gonna,
family, we have to be cautious about,
right.
artificial colors for this one, no dairy for this one,
Yes.
cashews for that one,
And
all the stuff.
that was
Yeah.
actually my next question for you too, is it a one size fits all, or it's so different? Like, we talk about gluten free and or dairy free, or you have people that go raw vegan or vegan, and
Mm-hmm.
and I know you could say yes, vegan, a lot of people say vegan diet is the best, but in a lot of vegan diets you do have, if it's not whole vegan, right, or whole foods, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
have the processed fake stuff,
Yeah.
the fake, we tried vegan, and to be honest, like, I did feel great when I took the time to make the foods, the vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
I did feel my inflammation go down, that's a for sure. But I got then caught up in the pastas, and
Mm-hmm.
and that was another thing. That was the IBS trigger, and things like that. Or the sugar went up,
Big
or the
time.
weight gain.
Yeah.
Just because you're vegan doesn't mean that you're going to lose weight.
There are a lot of, I say this with love because I know many who eat well and don't eat well. There are a lot of junk food vegetarians and vegans,
Yes. Yeah.
unfortunately. And even when you think, when I work with a client and I'm recommending that they test gluten free, I start off by saying, let's just eliminate the pasta and the breads from what you're eating for at least a couple weeks to show them the difference it can make in the way their body feels.
Yeah.
But then I'm very careful about, when they come back with, I really miss it, I really want some bread, whatever. Then I very carefully introduce potential alternatives, but I encourage them not to just buy everything that says gluten free
Mm.
because it's still processed.
Yes.
A lot of it, there's a lot of gluten free junk food,
Yeah. No,
Um,
Oreos are gluten. Well, are they gluten free? No, Oreos are
no,
vegan.
no,
But they're vegan. So when we went vegan,
really?
I went through the aisles and I'm like, Oreos are vegan, no problem.
Well, and it's funny because sometimes you'll go through the packaging and you'll see things that say gluten free on them, and it's like it never had gluten in it to begin with. Why
Yeah.
are you putting that on the package? You're just trying to ride that train and
Oh,
convince somebody they need to buy
marketing is
this too.
amazing,
And they're
isn't it?
committed.
They validated me eating my Oreos. That's all I
Okay, okay. Well, I'm glad you're over that stage.
got.
Because no, there's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
There really is not. There are some people that do very, very well on a vegetarian or vegan diet, but they have to be purposeful about balancing their protein intake with
Yes.
a different source of protein,
Mm.
balancing their nutrition, and not just loading up with pastas and gluten and bread and things like that that can fill you. And yes, they taste good, but they don't have the nutrients in them because they've been made from processed flour that's been stripped of their nutrients.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't realize is 3 to 4 days before they harvest a wheat field, they douse it with Roundup to kill back the grasses that are part of the wheat plant to make it easier to get to the wheat kernels. And that does not come off the wheat when it's processed into flour.
Wow.
So every time you are eating a normal, traditional, conventionally raised flour-based food, you are getting a dose of Roundup.
That's amazing.
Science and the FDA will say, oh, but it's designed to just kill bugs. Not a
Mhm.
problem. Well, we eat a whole lot more than the bugs do.
Mhm.
And so it does become a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you just got to be very mindful of that. For people clients that come to me as a vegan, then I'm very careful about, let's check your nutrient levels, because they're not getting the B vitamins that only come from animal foods.
Mhm.
And that can really deplete the body.
Yeah.
It can cause all kinds of downwards cascades. And so
Mhm.
you just I always look at the individual, what
Yeah.
are your convictions, but what is your body needing?
Mhm.
And trying to find that source, the building blocks that were mentioned in my biography was we need to find those building blocks in a form that you're okay with eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a real task. but we just have to find what your body needs, and it can change. Some people like you felt really good as a vegan for a while,
Yeah.
but then you kind of went over the other way,
Yeah.
and so there may be a time that it's appropriate, and then there may be a time that now it's time to shift and bring back more animal foods. But we
Yeah.
have to be mindful of the quality of the animal foods, because you want to know what it ate,
Yeah.
because that makes the flesh that we eat. And if
Mhm.
it ate junk food, and they do feed our animals junk food, then you're not getting the quality in the meat either.
What do you
So
recommend
if
for, oh, sorry, Gina.
I was going to ask, so if the cow eats all Oreos, we're okay, right?
I don't know
I'm
what a
just
cow would look like if it ate
I'm just
all
trying to
of
help. I'm just trying to help Debbie out here.
So the type of meat that, what do you recommend then? Just like grass-fed, organic?
I recommend grass-fed beef. It has a much higher nutrient level.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, well, it's really expensive. Well, a portion should be the size of your palm.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be eating a plate full of it.
Right. And not every day.
No. And you rotate around. You can do
Right.
different wild caught fish, not farm raised fish. That's a big one. Because if you watched any of the documentaries to learn about how they feed farm raised, they feed them junk,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
70% of the antibiotics that are manufactured in this nation are used in agriculture,
Mhm.
are fed to the cows that are raised in really bad conditions, so they're getting sick, or
Yeah.
fed to the fish in farm raised conditions.
Mhm.
We don't need, because it's going to be in their bodies, and then
Yeah.
it's coming to us, and we wonder why we have antibiotic resistant bugs now,
Right. Yeah.
because we've been eating it so much. Our
Right.
bodies have adapted, and
Mhm.
the bugs have adapted so that they are no longer susceptible to
Yeah.
those patients. So just need to be mindful of what you're
Mhm.
consuming, where it came from.
Yeah.
Well, and I think going to what you were saying about like how people say it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the way I've always looked at it is okay, so you're gonna either pay for it on this end or you're going to pay for it in the long run.
Yeah.
Your
that's a good
body's
point.
extremely unhealthy,
And
you're,
medical expenses are a lot more than food
yeah,
expenses.
yeah,
Yeah.
But it
yeah,
doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Mhm.
You know, Gina, you talked about eating carefully and what you, based on what you'd learned in my book, and you see something that just brings back memories and you really want some. It's okay.
yeah, yeah. You want to hear a good
Just
story about your book?
don't dive in and stay there. Okay.
Right, right.
So what was
Yeah,
your story?
exactly. And that's the important thing right there. So I got a good story. So so in Kelly's book, and this is the way Gina thinks, so everybody who's viewing this, like, probably my viewpoints are not the best. So I read this amazing thing about making bone broth, and Kelly gives you the, like, how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And Gina was walking through a store one day and just saw a thing of bone broth on the shelf, and I thought, and I told my husband, I'm like, "There's bone broth. Kelly said that bone broth's really good for you, so, like, I should get some." So I got it and I heated it up and didn't taste great. And so going back to our kids, I explained this to my youngest daughter, Katie, and she said, Mom, so she probably wanted you to make it. like
No,
like
Katie's
she said in the book.
because when they make it commercially, they load it with salt to
It was
preserve
so
it.
gross.
There's so much in there. I've got a big pot of bone broth on the stove now.
I
You
love
know,
that.
a carcass or two, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, I'm
Yes.
making a lot of bone broth with turkey carcasses, but 2 or 3 chicken carcasses, if you get rotisserie chicken, save
Yeah.
the bones, throw them in a pot. And what I often do is I go to our grocery store where they have a stew pack in the prepared fruits and
Yeah.
vegetables section. They have a stew pack that's got like half a cabbage and an onion and some
Oh yeah.
carrots, you know, a green pepper and potatoes and things like that. And I just take that pack of assorted vegetables and kind of rough chop them to make them fit in the pot better. And then fill the pot up with water and add a couple tablespoons of apple cider vinegar because that helps
Ooh,
to leach the nutrients from the bones.
yes.
And
Yes.
just turn it on and let it simmer for at least 24 hours. This batch is going to go 48 before
Wow.
we can it.
Yeah.
And actually last night it had already been on for 24 hours. We scooped broth out of that and made a soup for dinner,
Mhm.
right fresh, you know, just added other ingredients with it. But
Mhm.
it is so beneficial for you when you've been sick and you're recovering, but you're not really ready to eat food.
Yes.
Drinking a cup, you know, warm up a cup full of broth in a mug and just sip it. And it's very nourishing for your digestive
I
system.
am so super excited to get your book now because I was like, it's it was funny because like we went from vegan then to bone broth. You know, but
Oh, alternate.
I remember we made bone broth before, and I've read that there are so many benefits to bone broth, including the whole the probiotics for your stomach
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the digestive system and the whole and collagen and
Yes.
all of
Yes.
that stuff. But I'm super excited to get back into, like, you just talking to you about it and you mentioning the bone broth. I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait to get your book and look into that and start making the bone broth again because I did that a
Right.
couple years ago. But I do know that there's so many benefits to the bone broth. This is why chicken soup makes you feel so good when you're sick.
Exactly. Exactly. And you don't have to go buy it. And you know,
No,
I'm sorry, but Campbell's soup does not have the corner on the
No.
market, you know,
no,
at all.
no.
It's so much better to have it in the even if you do small batches. Now, mine is cooked on the stove at a simmer, but if you've got an Instapot, you
Yeah,
can do bone broth really fast.
yeah,
In an afternoon,
Oh,
you can have a
okay.
batch of bone broth. And
yeah,
even if it's just a couple or 3 quarts, put them in the back of your fridge where it's coldest and
mhm,
just you can leave them there for several, you know, for quite a while and then just be working off it. Or
yeah,
if you know it's going to go longer, you can can it or you can just freeze it
yeah,
and work it that way. But having those beneficial nutrients to put in your body is key. One
Yeah.
thing to note is, and when you get a copy of my book, Debbie,
Yes.
look in the back behind the, at the end of the book, there's a page of resources and there's a QR code. And in that QR code, you can get to a book portal I created that
Ooh,
has recipes, that
excellent.
has resources, a lot of things, partly because as I was interviewing cancer patients to find out, what do you wish you'd known? What were you told? That's
Yeah.
the thing. I was a little shocked to find out several people who did meet with a nutritionist were given a stack of books to read. And first of all, my thought was she didn't do her job. She should have taught you, not just handed you the books. But then I'd
Right.
ask, did you read the books? And usually it was like, no. And then I thought, good, I'm going to write a book for you not to read also. So that's when I got the idea for the portal. And I took 10 of the chapters and put them in video. So a cancer patient who's not ready to read and comprehend can watch and listen and maybe get it that way. But then there's also recipes, there's other resources and things that are available there. So
Yeah.
don't miss that resource page. It's a hidden
No,
jewel.
definitely.
It's amazing. I loved your book, Kelly. And I'm the type that's like, oh, okay, maybe I'll do it this way. So,
If you do
every one
one
of my friends
thing,
will tell you I do everything backwards.
okay. But if you, every change you make, you
Yeah.
know, you don't have to do front to back cover.
Mhm.
Every change you make is a benefit to your body.
Absolutely.
And once you've gotten one change in and you can begin to make that feel more comfortable, then you throw another change in and you do a little bit more, one
Yeah.
step at a time. You know,
Yeah.
we don't turn, our bodies aren't going to turn around overnight. So step by step is even better for our bodies. But,
What-
you know, don't kick yourself for not having done it all.
No. I have a question for you. So you did all this with your son when he was younger, and then you started your education like
Mhm.
in this topic area after you were 50. Like, were there some, because you already knew like this stuff works, was
Mhm.
there like an aha moment that like during your schooling in this that like really stood out, or um
I think it was more than, oh, there is so much more that the body can do with the right support.
sure,
You know, as I
sure.
knew from experience what I knew, but
Mhm.
then learning more about it and the science behind it. That's probably been one of my biggest challenges in this field is my college education was in accounting, not science. And so here I'm trying to cram the science into a menopausal brain, and some days it just doesn't want to work as well. So I'm grateful for the training that I have through the School of Applied Functional Medicine, because our teacher will give you high level science, but she also can break it down to application points.
Mhm.
And you know, so I tend to go in with the, okay, let's start with the basics here.
Yeah.
And we'll add the fancy science in if we need it. But I have found over and over and over with clients, even those that come to me with numerous diagnoses. I had one client that came to me on 32 medications.
Wow.
I mean, it was a whole typewritten piece of paper. And when she showed it to me, my first question was, do you have room for food? You're taking all this medicine?
Yeah.
And she just kind of laughed and said, some days no, not much. But
Mhm.
but even with a super complex client, we start with the basics. We
Yeah.
start with, what are you eating? How is your body responding to that? What can we shift? And that brought her off a lot of the medications when we took food out of her diet that her body was reacting to.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then her body could calm down and we could go a little deeper and, you know, do other things. But I tell this because I also mentor new students in the school. And I say, you don't have to grasp it all now. And you don't have to be afraid of those really deep cases. because you're going to start at the basics to begin with. And
Mhm.
when you get a lot of progress in their improvement when you start with those basics. So yeah, you know, I don't have to, there's amazing levels of science in this, and the body is just amazing to me with its complexity and its ability to adapt.
Yes.
But thankfully, I don't have to be able to explain all the science, to just say, this is what your body's needing, you know,
Yes.
and help
Yeah.
them make those changes.
I love how I was reading your bio and how you were talking about really listening to your body,
Mhm.
because you're the only person really that can advocate for yourself when you're in a physician's office or you're in
Yeah.
a situation. And how, you know, sometimes, like, I think it was in your bio that you were talking about like your thyroid, and
Mhm.
that's a very tricky hormone to level out, adjust. And your thyroid levels may on paper look normal, but you got to go by how you feel.
Bingo. That's
uh
exactly what it is. Yeah.
I thought that was huge when I was reading that, and that's just really validating that that I think you know, as physicians and stuff, they really need to listen how you are feeling. And sometimes I love the fact that this functional medicine listens to people, listens to, you know, what people are saying about how their body is responding or how their body feels, or, you know, they notice that even the slightest thing, like you said, your son was just eating the red dye, and you noticed right away a difference in him.
Mhm.
But,
Mhm.
just being more, I think modern or Western medicine needs to be a little bit more open,
Right.
and
Right.
really, really listen to people when they say, my left finger hurts when I eat an Oreo." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, we're back to Oreos
Okay.
We're
again.
back to Oreos,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Uh,
We need to
but it's
be.
like saying
Right.
that, as soon as you eat something, and you're not feeling well, or even the opposite. My husband swears like he eats about 3 cloves of garlic a day, and you know, he feels great. And there's, I mean, if it feels great, if he feels healthy, it's a, you
Mhm.
know, organic food. You know, why
Yeah. Yeah. Well, part of that may just because no one wants to get very close to him with their germs because of
not?
cloves of garlic. But there's
Good
benefits.
point.
There really are. And
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing with our conventional medicine is we have lost the understanding that we are empowered to speak up for ourselves. And if you are working with a doctor who will not listen, who will not honor your intuition about your body,
Yes.
time to find a different doctor,
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
because they are a service provider. If you don't like the guy that's mowing your lawn, you pick somebody else that's going to
Yes.
do it the way you want.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a nice way to do that. There's a way to say, this is not meeting my needs.
Mhm.
Same situation I had when because I was in the functional medicine training, I was hearing things and going, I wonder if I have low thyroid, because I was seeing lists of symptoms and checking them off, you know. And
Right.
so I made an appointment for a physical and labs with my primary care doctor. And in reviewing those, the only lab they pulled for TSH, for thyroid, was a TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone, which is not a thyroid hormone. It's released by the pituitary in the brain to tell your thyroid to release thyroid hormone. And so it's subject to whether the brain is satisfied with the amount of thyroid it has, but that doesn't mean the rest of your body has enough.
Mhm.
And I went in and they said, oh, you're fine. Fine is a 4-letter word to me in
Yeah.
a medical setting, because
Yeah.
I don't always believe it. You know?
Yeah.
I always dig deeper in
Mhm.
that. But
Yeah.
they told me you're fine. And yet what I was learning in functional medicine was the good level of TSH is normally 1.5 to 2, and mine was almost 4.0.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
And I walked out of there going, I got this, and this symptom. My body is not fine, even if
Right.
the lab says I am.
Right.
And so I
Yeah.
just started researching and figuring it out and did a lot to change my own. I found the things that were working against my body for my thyroid, and then eventually found a doctor who would support me with supplemental thyroid hormone. But we have to advocate for ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're still not, and that's exactly what you said. If you're not feeling well, if you went to your physician and you said, I think this is wrong or whatever, and if you're not feeling well after those answers or your treatment or what, do find someone else or keep
Mhm.
advocating for
Keep
yourself.
looking,
Yep.
keep
Keep
looking.
Yep.
looking and keep advocating for yourself until
Yep.
you,
Where I get a lot of my
yeah,
clients is people who say, I know something's off, and I've been to numerous practitioners and nobody's recognizing or seeing or having any answer. The biggest answer they often offer is an antidepressant because it obviously is in your head.
yeah,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's like, no, there's more there. We need to look deeper. Come
yeah,
and let's talk. And I ask the questions. I dig into health history and the symptoms survey. I have a 2-page symptoms survey that I offer my clients and ask them to fill in, that ask things that they may not think to tell me about.
mhm,
But
Yeah.
I'm looking at those symptoms as a roadmap to what's off, what's wrong, and digging in. And I may not be able to just immediately spout out what's wrong, but I validate them in their observations and I let them know that's important. And
yeah,
sometimes I have to help my clients learn to listen to their bodies and pay attention because they've been in so many doctors' offices where that was never acknowledged.
Right.
And they need to be validated, empowered to speak
Mhm.
what they know, speak what they're experiencing.
Yeah. Do
So,
you find, Kelly, in working, I'm sure you work with all ages, but working with women who are perimenopause or menopausal,
mhm,
where they've had that experience, like, with being dismissed from doctors and they're having these range of symptoms that they can't even explain.
mhm.
Have you found that? And then have you also found that, well, I'm sure you have, but like are there certain ways that you go about, like as far as dietary or whatever that can help symptoms that women are having
Oh
when they're,
yeah. Oh yeah. A
yeah.
lot of times we'll start with dietary, but I'm looking and listening to what's your cycle like? What are you noticing? How long has it been since you had a cycle?
Yeah.
And medicine is slowly beginning to acknowledge. There was actually a PBS special called The M Factor last weekend,
yes,
that was interviewing with doctors who are now specializing in working with menopausal women.
yes, I saw.
And, you know, and some famous performers who talked about their experience as they shifted into menopause, and just
Yeah,
recognizing that it's not just that your ovaries are no longer releasing eggs and you're not having a period.
mhm,
And estrogen, a drop in estrogen levels affects your bone density, affects your heart. You can often have heart palpitations and not know why.
yep,
Affects your brain function. There are a lot of estrogen receptors in brain cells, and if it's not getting the content it needs, then it's not going to work as well. It
true.
just affects the whole body.
Yes,
Women, estrogen's not the only hormone, but it's a key hormone in our bodies all the way to death.
mhm,
Mhm.
And
that's it.
so more and more that, there was this study years ago, the Women's Health survey, I can't remember, Health Initiative, maybe it was, where they surveyed women on hormone replacement and women without, and they stopped the testing, they stopped the experiments because a lot more women were developing breast cancer.
Mhm.
And they thought it was because of the hormone replacement that was causing it. Well,
Right.
partly this was not put out. They clarified this in the special on PBS, but I believe part of it was the synthetic hormones they were using
Yep.
are very different than what our body recognizes. Premarin was a very common estrogen replacement. That is made from pregnant mare's urine.
Horse here. Yeah. Yeah.
How it doesn't work in our bodies.
No, it's very interesting because it's like I did started following M Factor. I do know about the documentary.
Mhm.
I wanted to see it. I started looking at the celebrities that started coming out. And it's very interesting because it's like this generation right now, women of going through menopause are speaking up about
Mhm.
you. It's
Mhm.
been so dismissive that it was in our head. The first things that physicians would like to do is when you're going through menopause and you're feeling the emotions and all that is prescribe antidepressants.
Mhm.
And I'm just so grateful that in the study you were talking about in 2002 by the WIH, it discussed how that study was discontinued because of,
Mhm.
and they were like saying, you know what, we're not going to do the study anymore. Just don't take it. Just don't take any
Right.
estrogen or progesterone. And then those women live for, we went from 2002 to now, and then just seeing how these women had suffered from the osteoporosis. I know as soon as my mom went through menopause, within literally 5 years, developed fibromyalgia, psoriatic
Mhm.
arthritis. She's now starting with dementia. She's had hip fracture, osteoporosis. It's like within a
Yeah.
10-year period.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy what it does. And that's when I was going through menopause. And so
Yeah.
it wasn't until the last year or so that I've actually been doing hormone therapy.
Mhm.
But I don't anticipate from the studies that I've read, I don't anticipate the turnaround that women newly into menopause will get from
Yeah.
adding hormone therapy because I went 15 years without it.
Yeah.
But it can still help. If
Yes.
they're
Yes.
not sleeping, progesterone can be a game
Oh,
changer for being
Yeah.
able to sleep through the night. Hello, we need to sleep.
oh my God. I
It's
took that the
important.
first time I took Kelly, the first time I took that progesterone, I popped that pill. I was like, I was, I
I'm
was,
out.
I was out. I was like, this is amazing. I can,
It is. It
and
is.
you felt like you finally feel like, oh my God, just replacing the hormones that I had started to lose was making me feel like myself again. I
Yeah.
stopped feeling
Bingo.
nuts.
Bingo. That's it. It made me feel like myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think we're just finally in an age where women are willing to speak up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe because we have a higher percentage of our doctors who are female and have
Yeah.
been through it.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're willing to take a stand for that also. Because early on, when it was all men, they didn't know. They didn't live through it. They didn't experience
Right.
it. And they thought we were all crazy. Now we were
Yes.
going crazy because we weren't being listened to.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
And I just, don't want to, well, we shouldn't have to we're living
No,
longer. We shouldn't have to
no.
live the rest of our life in that condition. And I love Dr. Mary
Yeah.
Claire Haver, how
Mhm.
she's a huge advocate for women going, she's an OB-GYN specializing in menopause medicine. I mean, thank God that these physicians, especially
Yes.
this, generation going through menopause are like, wait a minute, like, why are we not putting women in menopause as a priority? And I
Mhm.
mean, we're just as valuable as anyone else
Exactly. Exactly. And by allowing women to go into menopause and suffer and just shrink
yeah,
back,
yeah,
we have lost the value of
yes.
the wisdom of our
Oh,
age.
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Perfectly
I
said,
love
You
Kelly.
that.
know,
I
if
love
it
how you,
wasn't for what I was learning
yeah,
and what I was passionate about because of my own experience, I wouldn't have been pushing to go back to school
right.
and to dig into science and things like that. But I want to spread the word that it's
Yes,
possible and you can keep your health and, you know, I've got 10 grandkids. I got to keep up with them.
Yes. Yes, you do. God bless you.
And it's like, whoa, it can
Yeah.
be crazy. But
Yeah.
I want to be able to keep up with them and be the grandmother that can be on the floor with the little ones and wrestle the other ones. And, you know, my oldest grandson is taller than me now, but I have pointed out to him that I could take his dad's down, and I can take him down too.
I love that. I love that.
And
Yeah.
he just looks at me and said, yeah, I know, Mammy.
There was something else that I wanted to say. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to, oh my gosh.
We
It's
do
like
this almost every time we hit this brain fog.
it is
Need
getting
hormones,
better.
huh?
Trust me. No, it's getting better. It is getting better.
Well, and
better.
you know, it's funny going back to this. Oh, go ahead.
The damage that hold on one second. Let me just okay, there we go. The damage that we have done to, how do we tell, I talk to a lot of women about you know, hormone therapy. So I'm a flight attendant, and sometimes we'll be sitting on the jump seat and I'll be like,
Uh-huh.
have you started taking your hormones? Let me tell you, it's a game changer. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
sometimes, when you're sitting on the jump seat with another flight attendant, you just start talking about everything and anything. And
Mhm.
you're sitting next to each other on a whatever hour flight, and you're going to talk about stuff, especially around my age. Some of them are like, oh girl, I have already been at them, yes, I'm taking them. And then some are just, they still have that fear because that damage has been done, the fear
Yeah.
of the breast
Yeah.
cancer. And there are other friends of mine that I've spoken to, like, one of them is very afraid of getting the breast cancer. And another one is about the blood clots too, that she was
Mhm.
worried about.
Mhm.
And that fear, that damage has been done. It almost reminds me of the MMR study that was done, that was retracted from the, what I'm
Once
talking.
they put it out in a headline,
Yes.
it's assumed to be gospel truth,
That's exactly that's what it reminded me. And I'm from the medical field originally. So
Uh-huh.
I'm like, when I'm talking to women and they're like, that fear, once it's been out there, once it's been
Yeah.
thrown out there, that fear, it's stuck in that subconscious mind. And they still, like, one woman I asked, I said, oh, did you start taking your hormones? She goes, aren't you afraid of getting cancer? I said, no. I go, here, look at this, follow her, no, you shouldn't have to suffer. Your joints, it's good for your heart, your bones, your brain. It actually
Mhm.
prevents breast cancer. The blood clot, the fear that was, the oral medication, the patches don't do. So it's like,
So many.
trying to get them to, like, be a little more open to maybe, learn about it and whatnot, instead of just being in fear.
Exactly.
And I
And
think it's really
then
important for them to talk to find the right provider, because it took
yeah.
me forever to find the right provider who was training in another lady, and she said, we got to get this woman sleeping. Like, that was the number one thing.
Mhm.
But I asked her right up front, I'm like, tell me about these risks. Tell me about, and she did. She went through that whole thing of the study and all of that. And there are some people who can't do the hormone therapy because, they've had breast cancer that actually feeds on estrogen. So,
Mhm.
but I think, like what you said earlier, Kelly, that importance of having those conversations with your provider and finding a provider that you can do that with, and to be able
Right.
to
A
advocate.
provider that will talk to you, will
Yeah.
listen to your concerns, but won't just spout old
Right.
science.
Right.
We want the new science
Yeah.
that's showing what
Mhm.
has changed, because,
Yep.
that was 20 years ago.
Yes.
Right.
Things are different now. We know differently now. And for those that are concerned about, breast cancer or whatever, it's like, oh, we've been tested, the genetic testing, and we've got the BRCA gene. And so, and I say, wait a minute, genes are not a guarantee of what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Genes, epigenetics is a whole science of how the body can change according to its input. And I tell people, your genes are like having a library in your body. And the only things that are affecting what's going on in your body is the genes that are in circulation. in effect, just like books in a library. If they're on the
Yes.
shelf, they're not doing any good. But if they're out being read, they're having an effect in society. You can turn on and you can turn off genetic expression by your food choices and your
Yes.
lifestyle.
Yes. Oh my God, Kelly.
We
Yes.
have power.
Hallelujah.
We have power, and we can
Yes.
make
Yeah.
those choices, but we got to make those choices.
Perfect. Standing ovation. I
that.
love
Oh,
it. I
thank you.
love it. Yes, yes, and yes.
And
yes.
those choices, you start with my book,
Oh,
and
of
you'll learn a
course.
lot of those
Yes.
foundational choices.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Kelly, if our listeners, I've been kind of watching to make sure that if people were putting anything in the chat, we don't have anything in the chat.
Mhm.
But for the listeners, if you have questions for Kelly, if you want to maybe consider working with her, what's the best way that they can find you?
The best way is to go to my website, pursuewellnessforyou.com. And on that front page up in the top, they'll find a spot where they can schedule a strategy call and just talk to me about what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, I want to hear from them what's going on, and then I can share with them how I can help if I feel like I'm a fit, but I'm not always a fit. It depends, but we
Yeah.
need to talk to
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
if it's something that I can help with.
Yeah,
Um,
sounds great. And here's Kelly's
Great way to
book
start.
again, Driving Through Cancer.
A
A holistic
holistic approach for your
approach.
journey.
Yeah, thank you. It's backwards here. But
Oops.
anyways, great book, you guys. And we'll also drop the link for her book
Yes.
and her other links in the chat. So, or in the post that we do. So yeah, definitely if you want to learn more, definitely reach out to Kelly. She's a
Mhm.
wealth of knowledge in this area. So
And if they just want to lurk, I have years worth of blogs on my website also.
Sure.
You can just read stuff, you know, and
Yeah.
get a feel that way. But
so for you lurkers out there, you can lurk.
you have permission, but don't waste too much time or you're going to go downhill.
I love it. Well, thank you
Uh,
so much, Kelly. We just are so grateful that you wanted to come on our podcast.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. This has been delightful, and
Yeah, it's been
make it
amazing.
easy to talk about my passion. Thank you.
Love that.
Yeah,
Kelly, thank you so
absolutely. Thank
much.
you. All
Great
right.
wealth of information.
Have a good weekend, all of you. I know it's cooler for you than it is up here. We were still 92 this morning.
Where are you at, Kelly?
Outside of New Orleans, Louisiana, down on the
Oh,
Gulf.
I love Louisiana.
So
Oh,